Auzubillahiminashaitanirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama sallaita ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima. Innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama barakta ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima. Innaka Hamidum Majid. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا زدنا علما يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلبي على دينك آمين. Today we'll complete the second part of Surah Ashura, in which we will do from verse number 1 to 3 till 2 to 7. First I will recite few verses from 1 to 3. كذبت عادا المرسلين إذ قال لهم أخوهم هودا ألا تتقون إني لكم رسول أمين فاتقوا الله وأطيعون وما أسألكم عليه من أجر إن أجري إلا على رب العالمين تبنون بكل بريح آيات تعبسون وتتخذون مصانع لعلكم تخلدون وإذا بطشتم جبارين فاتقوا الله وأطيعون 131. Let's do the translation from verse number 1 to 1. The Ad denied the obstacles. 1 to 4. When their brother Hud told them, do you not fear? 1 to 5. I am certainly a trustworthy messenger to you. 1 to 6. So fear Allah and obey me. 1 to 7. I do not ask you any remuneration for this. My remuneration is the responsibility of Allah, the Rabb of the universe. Do you build a monument on every elevated place for spot? 1 to 9. And do you construct large palaces, so that perchance you may live forever? And 130. And when you seize control, you seize like tyrants. 131. So fear Allah and obey me. واتقوا الذي أمدكم بما تعلمون أمدكم بأنعام وبنين وجنات وعيون إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم عظيم قالوا سواء علينا أو أست أو أم لم تكن من الواعظين إن هذا إلا خلق الأولين وما نحن بمعذبين فكذبوه فأهلكناهم إن في ذلك لآيات وما كان أكثرهم مؤمنين وإن ربك لهو العزيز الرحيم 132. Fear the being who has strengthened you with the things that you know. 133. He has strengthened you with animal sun. 134. Orchards and springs. 135. Undoubtedly I fear for you the punishment of a great day. 136. They replied, it is immaterial to us whether you advise us or whether you are not from the advisors. 137. This is merely the behavior of the old men. 138. We shall never be punished. 139. They falsified him, so we destroyed them. There is certainly a great sign in this, however most of them do not believe. 140. Really your Rabb is mighty, the most merciful. Hazrat Hud was sent as a Nabi to his nation called the Ad. However, they behaved just like the people of Hazrat Nuh. He told him, do you not fear? I am extremely a trustworthy messenger to you. So fear Allah and obey me. I do not ask you any remuneration for this. My remuneration is the responsibility of Allah, the Rabb of this universe. The Ad were an extremely powerful nation. They described in Surah Araf, where Hazrat Hud told them that Allah had increased them considerably in stature. Compared to other nations, Allah says about them in Surah Fajr, anyone like them was not created in the cities. Hazrat Hud asked him, do you build a monument to every on every elevated place for sport. Alama Qurtubi Rahmullah writes that they used to sit on these huge monuments and poke fun at passing travelers. They also constructed such large and fortified palaces that a person would think that they are to live there eternally. It is reference to this that Hazahud salam told them, and do you construct large palaces so that perchance you may live forever? Certain commentators have interpreted the verse to mean that they built these huge palaces with the hope that they would live eternally. Others interpret it is to mean that they build these palaces so that they do not have to worry about death reaching them there. Hazrat Hud salam also told them, and when you seize control, you seize this tyrant. Because of their enormous stature and build, they grew very arrogant and used to exclaim, who can be more powerful than us? Therefore, they plundered many cities and mercilessly slaughtered the people there. So fear Allah and obey me. Fear the being who has strengthened you with this thing that you know. He has strengthened you with animals, suns, orchards, and springs. It is therefore necessary that they be grateful to Allah and worship Him. Hazrat salam compassionately warned them, saying, undoubtedly, I fear for you to fear the punishment of a great day. Like the day, the punishment will also be severe. No heeding what he said, they replied, it is immaterial to us whether you advise us or whether you are not from the advisers. We will do as we please. So, for the things you warn us about, this is merely the behavior of the old man. They meant to tell him that Qiyamah would never come despite the warning of the previous generations. They also added, we shall never be punished. They falsified him, so we destroyed him. They were then destroyed by a severe windstorm which blew restlessly for 7 nights and 8 days. The details of their punishment are mentioned in Surah Mahamim Sajda, Surah Ahqaf, Surah Zariyat, Surah Qamar, and Surah Al-Haqqa. Allah then repeats the previous statement. There is certainly a great sign in this. However, most of them do not believe. Really, your Rabb is mighty, the most merciful. Few more verses from 141 till 159. كذبت ثمود المرسلين إذ قال لهم أخوهم صالح ألا تتقون إني لكم رسول أمين. The Samud denied the obstacles. 142, when their brother Saleh told them, do you not fear? 143, I am certainly a trustworthy messenger to you. Now from verse number 144, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُونِ وَمَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ أَجْرٍ إِنْ أَجْرِيَ إِلَّا عَلَى رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ أَتُتْرَكُونَ فِي مَا هَاهُنَا آمِنِينَ بِجَنَّاتٍ وَعُيُونٍ وزروع والنخل طلعوها هازين وتنحتون من الجبال بيوتا فارهين فاتقوا الله وأطيعون ولا تطيعوا أمر المسرفين الذين يفسدون في الأرض ولا يصلحون قالوا إنما أنت من المسحرين ما أنت إلا بشر مثلنا فأت بآيات إن كنت من الصادقين قال هذه ناقة الله شرب ولكم شرب يوم معلوم ولا تمسوها بسوء فيأخذكم عذاب يوم عظيم فأكروها فأصبحوا نادمين فأخذهم العذاب إن في ذلك لآيات وما كان أكثرهم مؤمنين. 144, so fear Allah and obey me. 145, I do not ask you for my remuneration for this. My remuneration is the responsibility of Allah, the Rabb of the universe. Will you be left in peace with what is here? 147, in orchard spring. 148, plantation and date palms which have intervened tickets. 149, thickets. 149, and you boastfully carve homes from the mountain. 150, so fear Allah and obey me. 151, do not obey the command of the transgressors. 152, who are those who cause anarchy on earth and do not make amends. 153, they said you are but one of the bewitched ones. 154, you are merely a human like ourselves, so produce a sign for us if you are from the truthful. 155, Saleh alayhi salam said, this is the camel. It will have a day to drink, and your animals will have an appointed day to drink. 156, do not touch it with evil intentions, for then the punishment of a grave day will afflict you. 157, however, they killed the camel and then grew to regret. 158, the punishment then seized them. There is certainly a great sign in this, however, most of them do not believe. Verse number 159, وَإِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الرَّحِيمُ, verily your Rabb is mighty, the most merciful. The Samud came after the Ad and were also a deviant nation. Allah sent Hazrat Saleh alayhi salam from among them as a Nabi. He told them, I am certainly a trustworthy messenger to you, so fear Allah and obey me. I do not ask you for any remuneration for this. My remuneration is the responsibility of Allah, the Rabb of the universe. He also reminded them of the favor that Allah bestowed on them. He reminded them about their orchards, springs, plantation, and date palms, which have intervened thicket. He also told them, and you boastfully carve homes from the mountains. Allah granted them the ability to carve the mountain into homes. He reminded them that these pleasure will be short-lived because everyone will meet their death. He added, so fear Allah and obey me. Do not obey the command of the transgressors, who are those who cause anarchy on earth and do not make amends. He warned them against following these people who were sure to lead them to destruction. All they say was, you are but one of the bewitched ones. You are merely a human like ourselves. Allah quotes them in Surah Qamar, if we were to follow a lonesome human from among ourselves, we would surely be astray and insane. Has a revelation come only to him from among all of us? Nay, he is but an arrogant liar. Verse 24-25. Finally, they told Hazrat Saleh alayhi salam, so produce a sign for us if you are from the truthful. According to certain commentators, they asked him to produce a pregnant camel from a mountain. He warned them that they will be punished if they do not believe in a miracle that they are request for. When the miracle was displayed, Saleh alayhi salam said, this is the camel, it will have a day to drink, and your animals will have an appointed day to drink. Terms were stipulated because the miraculous camel would drink all the water of a well by herself. However, the people disliked that the camel should receive preferential treatment. It was then that they mutually decided to kill her. When Hazrat Saleh alayhi salam learnt about their evil intentions, he told them, do not touch it with evil intentions, for then the punishment of a grave day will afflict you. Not heeding his warning, they killed the camel, but then grew to regret it when they were afflicted by Allah's punishment. Eventually, the punishment then seized them. The details of the punishment have been given in the commentaries of Surah Araf, verse 73-79, and Surah Hud, verses 61 till 68. Allah says there is certainly a great sign in this, however, most of them do not believe. Verily, your Rabb is mighty, the most merciful. And now from verse number 160 till 175. كذبت قوم لوط المرسلين إذ قال لهم أخوهم لوط ألا تتقون إني لكم رسول أمين فاتقوا الله وأطيعون وما أسألكم عليه من أجر إن أجري إلا على رب العالمين أتأتون الذكران من العالمين وتذرون ما خلق لكم ربكم من أزواجكم بل أنتم قوم عادون قالوا لئن لم تنتهي يا لوط لتكونن من المخرجين قال إني لعملكم من القالين رب نجني وأهلي مما يعملون فنجيناه وأهله أجمعين إلا أجوزا في الغابرين ثم دمرنا الآخرين. Translation from verse number 160. The nation of Lut denied the messengers. 161. When their brother Lut told them, do you not fear? 162. I am extremely a trustworthy messenger to you. 163. So fear Allah and obey me. 164. I do not ask you for any remuneration for this. My remuneration is the responsibility of Allah, the Rabb of the universe. 165. Do you go on to men from universe? 166. Leaving aside your spouses whom your Rabb has created for you, you are certainly a transgressing nation. 167. They replied, O Lut, if you do not desist, you will surely be from the banished ones. 168. Lut said, I am certainly among those who deplore your action. 169. O my Rabb, save myself and my family from what these people do. 170. So we saved him and all the members of his family. 171. Except an old lady who was among those who were left behind. 172. Then we destroyed the others. Three more verses. وَأَمْطَرْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ مَطَرًا فَسَاءَ مَطَرُ الْمُنذَرِينَ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ وَمَا كَانَ أَكْثَرُهُم مُؤْمِنِينَ وَإِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الرَّحِيمُ. We sent a torrential showers upon them. Even evil indeed was the rain of those who were forewarned. 174. There is certainly a great sign in this, however most of them do not believe. 175. Verily your Rabb is mighty, the most merciful. Allah sent Hazrat Lut alayhi salam to preach to certain nations who lived on the banks of the Jordan River. These people practiced homosexuality as explained in the commentaries of Surah Araf and Surah Hud as well. They were the first people on earth to engage in this filthy sin. They were also highway robbers. Allah quotes Hazrat Lut alayhi salam as saying in Surah Ankabut, do you approach men, waylay the highway and perpetrate evil in your gatherings? When Hazrat Lut alayhi salam preached to them, they threatened him, saying, O Lut, if you do not desist, you will surely be from the banished ones. They mocked him by saying that he considers himself to be too clean to live with them. Lut alayhi salam said, I am certainly among those who deplore your action. Despite all his efforts for many years, the people did not listen to him, but continued to do so as they had always done. Eventually, they even said to him, bring Allah's punishment to us if you are from amongst the truthful. Surah Araf, Surah Shura, and Surah Naml state that Allah showered them with stones. Surah Hijr and Surah Hud state that their towns were raised to the sky and then thrown down. And Surah Hijr adds that a scream destroyed them, as has been discussed in the commentary of Surah Araf, verses 80 till 84. All three punishments afflicted them. Allah says, so we saved him and all the members of his family except an old lady, Hazrat Lut alayhi salam's wife, who was among those who were left behind. Then we destroyed the others. We sent a torrential showers upon them. Evil indeed was the rain of those who were forewarned. The details of this has been given in the commentary of Surah Araf, verses 80-84. Surah Hud, verses 77-83. Surah Hijr, verses 58 till 77. More will be mentioned in Surah Ankabut, verses 31 till 35. Allah concludes the incident by saying there is certainly a great sign in this. However, most of them do not believe. Verily your Rabb is mighty, the most merciful. Now I'll recite from verse number 176 till 191. كذب أصحاب الأيكة المرسلين إذ قال لهم شعيب ألا تتقون إني لكم رسول أمين فاتقوا الله وأطيعون وما أسألكم عليه من أجر إن أجري إلا على رب العالمين أوفوا الكيل ولا تكونوا من خاسرين وزنوا بالقسطاس المستقيم ولا تبخسوا الناس أشياءهم ولا تعثوا في الأرض مفسدين واتقوا الذي خلقكم والجبلة الأولين قالوا إنما أنت من المسحرين وما أنت إلا بشر مثلنا وإن نظنك لمن الكاذبين فأسقط علينا كسفا من السماء إن كنت من الصادقين. Translation from verse number 176. The people of Aika denied the messengers. 177. When Shoaib alayhi salam told them, do you not fear? 178. I am certainly a trustworthy messenger to you. 179. So fear Allah and obey me. Verse number 180. I do not ask you for any remuneration for this. My remuneration is the responsibility of Allah, the Rabb of the universe. 181. Measure is full and do not be of those who diminish. 182. And weigh with a just balance. 183. Do not deplete people's property and do not spread anarchy on earth. 184. Fear the being who created you and all the previous creations. 185. They said you are but from the bewitched ones. 186. You are but a human like ourselves. In fact, we consider you to be from the liars. 187. So cause a piece of the sky to fall on us if you are from the trustworthy ones. Now verse number 188 till 191. قال ربي أعلم بما تعملون فكذبوه فأخذهم عذاب يوم الظلالة إنه كان عذاب يوم عظيم إن في ذلك لآيات وما كان أكثرهم مؤمنين وإن ربك لهو العزيز الرحيم. 188. Shoaib alayhi salam said, my Rabb knows best what you do. 189. So they falsified him, and the punishment of the day of the canopy seized them. It was certainly a punishment of a grace day. 190. There is certainly a great sign in this, however, most of them do not believe. 191. Verily your Rabb is mighty, the most merciful. Hazrat Shoaib alayhi salam was sent to the people of Aika and the people of Madian. One of the crimes that they perpetrated was that they cheated people in weighing and measuring goods. Hazrat Shoaib alayhi salam told them, do you not fear? I am certainly a trustworthy messenger to you. So fear Allah and obey me. I do not ask you for any remuneration for this. My remuneration is the responsibility of Allah, the Rabb of the universe. Measure is in full and do not be of those who diminish, and weigh with a just balance. Do not deplete people's property and do not spread anarchy on earth. The people told him, O Shoaib, does you Saleh Salah command you that we should forsake that our forefathers worshipped and that we should do as we please with our wealth? In saying this, they meant to tell him that they will do as they please with their wealth and that they will weigh and measure as they desire. People tend to say which thing when they forget that they are Allah's servants and that all their wealth also belongs to Allah. Hazrat Shoaib alayhi salam advised them, saying, fear the being who created you and all the previous creations. However, they did not heed his advice and said, you are but from the bewitched ones. You are but a human like ourselves. In fact, we consider you to be from the liars. Be so cause a piece of the sky to fall on us if you are from the truthful ones. Shoaib alayhi salam said, my Rabb knows best what you do. He will therefore punish you when he deems it fit. I cannot punish you. Their evil deeds were sufficient to invite Allah's punishment. Eventually, when they become extremely rebellious, the punishment of the day of the canopy seized them. It was certainly a punishment of a grave day. Explaining this verse, Allama Qurtubi Rahmullah writes that Allah made the weather extremely hot. They all left their homes and sought shelter beneath the trees. Allah then sent a dense cloud towards them, which they took as canopy to escape the heat. When they all gathered beneath the cloud, a descending fire scorched them all. The author of Ruhul Mani writes that this fire from the sky was exactly what they had asked for. A word Eka refers to a densely foliated forest. They are referred to as people of Eka because they lived in an area where the forest was extremely thick. This incident reads when Shoaib told them, "Do you not fear?" It does not say when their brother Shoaib told them, as mentioned at the beginning of the incidents of the other Anbiya alayhi salam. Alama Qurtubi Rahmullah writes that this is so because Hazrat Shoaib alayhi salam was not one of the indigenous people of Aika. He belonged to the people of Madian, like Surah Hud mentions. To Madian we sent their brother Shoaib. Concluding this narrative, Allah repeats there is certainly a great sign in this. However, most of them do not believe. Verily, your Rabb is mighty, the most merciful. Now I'll recite from verse number 191 till 212. وإنه لتنزيل رب العالمين نزل به الروح الأمين على قلبك لتكون من المنذرين بلسان عربي مبين وإنه لفي زبر الأولين أولم يكن لهم آيات أن يعلمه علماء بني إسرائيل ولو نزلناه على بعض الأعجمين فقرأه عليهم ما كانوا به مؤمنين. Without doubt, this is a revelation from the Rabb of the universe. The trustworthy angel descended with it upon your heart so that you become of the warner. In the clear Arabic language, indeed, it recited mention in the scriptures of the early nation, 197. Is it not sufficient proof to them what the scholars of the Bani Israel have knowledge of it? 198. If we were to reveal it to any non-Arab. 199. Who was to recite it to them, they would never have believed in it. Now verse number from 200. كذلك سلكناه في قلوب المجرمين لا يؤمنون به حتى يروا العذاب الأليم فيأتيهم بغتة وهم لا يشعرون فيقولوا هل نحن منذرون أفبهذا بنا يستعجلون أفرأيت إن متعناهم سنين ثم جاءهم ما كانوا يوعدون ما أغنى عنهم ما كانوا يمتعون وما أهلكنا من قرية إلا لها منذرون ذكرى وما كنا ظالمين وما تنزلت به الشياطين وما ينبغي لهم وما يستطيعون إنهم عن السمع لمعزولون. 200 from, now I'll recite from verse number 200. In this manner have we inscribed disbelief in the hearts of the criminals. 201. They shall never believe it until they witness a painful punishment. 202. It will then come to them unexpectedly when they do not perceive it. 203. They will then say, can we be granted respite? 204. Do they seek to hasten our punishment? 205. Tell me, if we were to allow them enjoyment for a few years. 206. After which that should come to them which they were promised. 207. The enjoyment granted to them would be of no avail to them. 208. We have destroyed only towns that had warners. 209. To advise we were never oppressors. 210. The shayateen do not reveal the Quran. 211. They are not befitting for this, nor have they the capabilities. 212. They have definitely been forbidden from listening. Referring to the Quran, Allah declares without doubt this is a revelation from the Rabb of the universe. The trustworthy angel descended with it. Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam brought the Quran to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Allah without altering anything even in the slightest degree. Allah says that Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam brought the Quran upon your Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's heart so that you become of the warners. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the warned people and advised them by means of the Quran. Allah says in Surah Anam, this Quran has been revealed to me so that I warn you with, as well as those whom it reaches. Verse number 19. Allah says in Surah Shura, in this manner did we reveal the Arabic Quran to you so that you may warn the mother of all cities and those around her, so that you may warn them about the day of gathering about which there shall be no doubt. A group shall be in Jannah while another shall be in the blaze. Verse number 7. Allah says further that the Quran is revealed in the clear Arabic language. None can refute the eloquence of the Quran. Until today, the challenge to produce a single surah equivalent to those of the Quran has not been met. A reliable friend of mine has informed me that 2 computers have been commissioned with the task of meeting the challenge of the Quran. Now, whenever these computers are fed with any Quranic verse, it concedes that it cannot match it. Indeed, the Quran received mention in the scriptures of the earlier nations. The previous scriptures made mention of the advent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Quran. Even though people have adulterated their scriptures, as such facts can still be detached. Certain commentators have interpreted this verse to mean that the subject matter contained in the Quran is also found in the previous scriptures, like Allah says in the final verse of Surah Allah. This is certainly in the previous scriptures, in the scriptures of Ibrahim and Musa, verses 18 and 19. Hazrat Maqil bin Yasir Radiallahu ta'ala anhu reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Surah Baqarah has been given to me from the previous scriptures, which while Surah Taha, the Tawasin, those surahs beginning with Tasin, and the Hawamim, those surahs begin with Hamim. From the tablets of the Musa, Surah Fatiha and the concluding verses of Surah Baqarah, verse 85 and 86, have been given to me from beneath Allah's throne. The Mufassalat from Surah Hujurat until the end of the Quran have been seen to me an extra, that is, other Nabi has received anything like it, Jamiul Saghir. It is not sufficient proof to them that the scholars of the Bani Israel have knowledge of it. They learned scholars of the Bani Israel who lived during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew very well that the Quran was the truth from Allah. Some of them became Muslims, but others did not. Even though they admitted to people to private that the Quran was a revelation from Allah. The Mushrikeen accepted the Jews to be learned people and even requested the Jews to teach them how to challenge the apostleship of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, they refused to believe after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied to their challenges. Allah says, if we were to reveal it, the Quran, to any non-Arab who was to recite it to them, they would never have believed in it, even though the miracle would have then been greater. It is in this manner have we inscribed a disbelief in the hearts of the criminals. They shall never believe it until they witness a painful punishment. It will then come to them unexpectedly when they do not perceive it. They will then say, can we be granted respite? At this moment their belief will not be acceptable. The punishment referred to in this verse could refer to some worldly punishments and not for not believing, or it could refer to their deaths. It will also not be incorrect to say that it refers to the punishment in the grave or in the hereafter. Allah then says, do you seek to hasten our punishment? These people are foolish to think that Allah's punishment will not afflict them merely because it has not yet afflicted them. Nothing that they possess in this world will be of any avail to them when they suffer the punishment. With reference to this, Allah says, tell me, if we were to allow them enjoyment for a few years, after which that should come to them which they were promised, then the enjoyment grant to them would be of no avail to them. We have destroyed only towns that had warned to advise. Even before the revelation of the Quran, Allah only destroyed those nations who were disobedient. After warner was sent to them, they advised people and counseled them. When the people refused to accept, they were granted further respite. Eventually, they were totally annihilated. The verse warns the people whom the Quran addresses. It tells them that they should also accept the truth because they could suffer the same fate as those because before them. Allah then says, "We were never oppressors. Allah can never oppress any person. All these actions are based on some inner wisdom which man may sometimes not understand." Allah then discussed the pristine purity of the Quran when He says, the shaitan do not reveal the Quran. They are not befitting for this, nor have they capability. They have definitely been forbidden from listening. The shayateen have been banned from listening to Quranic revelation in the heavens. The author of Ruhul Mani writes that this verse refutes a statement made by the Quraysh that a jinn had become subservient to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and was teaching him the Quran. Allah says that the shayateen cannot reveal something like the Quran because the Quran guides people, whereas the shayateen are devoted to leading people astray. Since Allah has deprived them of the ability to even listen to the revelation of the Quran, it is obvious that they cannot be a means to reveal it. Now I'll recite from verse number 213 till 220. فلا تدع مع الله إلها آخر فتكون من المعذبين وأنذر عشيرتك الأقربين واحفظ جناحك لمن اتبعك من المؤمنين فإن عصوك فقل إني بريء مما تعملون وتوكل على العزيز الرحيم الذي يراك حين تقوم وتقلبك في الساجدين إنه هو السميع العليم. Do not call to another God besides Allah, for then you will be of the punished ones. Warn your closest relatives and be humble to those believers who follow you. If they disobey you, then they say verily, I am exonerated from what you do. Rely to the mighty, the most merciful, who sees you when you rise and sees your movement with those who prostrate. Without doubt, He is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. Allah says in the above verses, do not call to another God besides Allah, for then you will be of punished ones. Although the verse is addressed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is intended for every member of his ummah because he is innocent of shirk and kufr. Thereafter, Allah again commands Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when He says, warn your closest relatives. As Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu ta'ala says, when this verse was revealed, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mounted the hill of Safa and called various tribes of the Quraysh. When they all gathered, he asked them, will you people believe me if I told you that an army of horsemen were advancing to attack you from behind this mountain? They replied, we shall certainly believe you. We have never known you to be untruthful. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, then I am warning you of a severe punishment if you do not believe in what I preach to you. Thereupon Abu Lahab said, may you be destroyed forever. Have you gathered us for this? It was then that Surah Lahab, Surah number is 111, was revealed, where Allah says, may the hands of Abu Lahab be shattered and he be destroyed. Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them on that occasion, O Quraysh, save yourself, that is, from Jahannam, by accepting Islam. I cannot save you from the pending punishment. He said this taking the names of his uncle Hazrat Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu and his aunt Hazrat Safiya radiallahu ta'ala anha, then addressing his daughter Hazrat Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, O the daughter of Muhammad, Fatima, ask whatever you please from my wealth. I cannot rescue you from Allah's punishment. Narrated by Mishkat, page 460. With these words, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wished to impress upon their minds that family ties cannot save one from Allah's punishment in the hereafter. The criteria for success there shall be iman and good deeds. Although Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a messenger to the entire creation, he was specifically commanded to preach to his family. This teaches preachers that they should never neglect their families in their efforts. The fact that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam specifically addressed Hazrat Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, who was a believer and a child then, shows that one should pay attention to the proper religious upbringing of one's children. Allah says in Surah Tahrim, O you who believe, save yourself and your families from that fire, the fuel of which is men and stones. It is tragic to see many people nowadays who excel in preaching to others, yet neglect to bring the message home to their families. This is true. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is further commanded, and be humble to those believers who follow you. The mu'mineen are more worthy of receiving a cordial reception. The fourth directive is then issued to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Allah says, if they disobey you, then say, really I am exonerated from what you do. A person should not associate with the sinful behavior of others, but should rather disassociate from them. Allah then tells Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, rely on the mighty, the most merciful, who sees you when you rise and sees your movement with those who prostrate. Without doubt, He is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. Allah reassures Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he would never fear the kuffar because Allah is ever present and will always be there to assist. Therefore, only He must be relied on at all times. Now, verse number 2 to 1 till 2 to 7. هل أنبئكم على ما تنزل الشيطان تنزل على كل أفاك أثيم يلقون السماء وأكثرهم كاذبون وشعراء يتبعوهم الغاؤون ألم تر أنهم في كل واد يهيمون وأنهم يقولون ما لا يفعلون إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وذكروا الله كثيرا وانتصروا من بعد ما ظلموا وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Shall I inform you of the one upon whom the shayateen descend? 222. They descend upon every lying sinner. 223. They steal a hearing and most of them are liars. 224. Only deviant people follow the poets. 225. Do you not see that they wander astray in every valley? 226. And that they say things which they never do. 227. Except those who believe, do good deeds, remember Allah abundantly, and avenge themselves after being oppressed. Shortly the oppressors will come to know which place they will return. In reply to the allegation that a jinn teaches Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah says, shall I inform you of the one upon whom the shayateen descend? They descend upon every liar sinner. They steal a hearing and most of them are liars. Those who are informed by the shayateen listen attentively so that they are being told. They then transmit the same information, adding many more lies to it. Before the advent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the shayateen used to ascend to the heavens and listen to the conversation of the angels. They would then transmit the news of forthcoming events to the future fortune tellers, but would add many lies to it. These fortune tellers would behave them because the news received from the angels would always materialize. Allah then denounces poetry and poets when He says only deviate people follow the poet. This verse also replies to the other allegation made by the mushrikeen when they said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a poet, whereas poet says things that are fictional. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about reality to the people. Do you not see that they poets wander astray in every valley? They are never searching for. Uh, they are ever searching for fiction to translate into poetry, so that their followers can be happy, and that they say things which they never do. Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that this verse was revealed with regard to mushrikeen poets who used to compose poetry to ridicule Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, trying to prove that they can also say what he said. The lies, fantasize, and and exaggeration employed by poets is universally known. However, Allah has stated an exception when He says, except those who believe, do good deeds, remember Allah abundantly, and avenge themselves after being oppressed. These poets are not like those described above. People of their Because of their iman, their involvement in good deeds, and their excessive remembrance of Allah, the Mu'mineen poets do not stumble to lying, and their poetry serves to invite to Allah and good deeds. Their poetry praises Allah and His Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whenever the kuffar behave oppressively and criticize Islam, these poets are quick to retaliate and avenge Islam by composing poetry to combat these kuffar. They will be rewarded for this poetry because it is composed to please Allah and to defend Islam. Hazrat Hassan bin Sabit radiallahu ta'ala anhu was the poet during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam once told him, as long as you defend Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam remains constantly in your attendance. His poetry against the kuffar was more severe than the piercing of arrows was to the enemy, narrated by Muslim. Bukhari reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a pulpit erected from Hazrat Hassan Raziyallahu ta'ala anhu, from where he used to recite his poetry. All deeds are judged according to the underlying intentions. It is for this reason that when asked about poetry, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, "It is a manner of speech. The good that is in it is good, while the evil that is in it is evil." When the poem contains backbiting, slander, causes people to miss Salah when engaged in it, it will be abominable and not permissible. Allah concludes the surah by saying, "Shortly the oppressor will come to know to which place they will return." This verse warns those people who assail the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and who falsify the Quran. They will realize the error of their ways when they are cast into the depth of Jahannam. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.